Folks, do you like the taste of cold cheese in the morning? Is that how you get things started? Well, I hope so, because Colchis is here. And yes, I did steal that from Maximus, so credit to him. We all miss him and hope that he's doing well. Yeah, Colchis is over here, and Kartli Axemen are on the battlefield, as well as other Axemen. So Colchis is definitely an axe-heavy faction. As far as how axe units function in Rome 2, for the most part, they are kind of like okay on the charge. Kartli Axemen are actually pretty good on the charge, and Axemen tend to come with pretty solid melee attack. Their damage is lower, but it's because when you look at the armor-piercing split, they do a lot of armor-piercing damage. Now, when you compare this with, like, say, Shotel Warriors, the Shotel Warriors end up being quite a lot better, and maybe that's closer to what Axemen should have done. But essentially, Axemen are a unit that you want to get into an armored fight after the charge and let them grind it up, right? So that's the type of ideal fight for an axe unit. There are some Hillmen here, which are also axe units, by the way. And then there is some Peltist helping to guard the flank of Hippeus Lancers for Colchis. That's where the general's at as well, and that's mixed in with some Noble Blood Cavalry. Noble Blood Cavalry is very good heavy melee cavalry, and then there are Peltist supporting the cavalry. Interesting. So 4 Peltist, and then up front there are 4 units of Eastern Slingers, which are the 23 attack slingers, so they're a little better on the attack than standard slingers. I like the Peltist pick in keeping the horse skirmishers at bay. The horse skirmishers could charge them, but Peltist have enough armor to make a little bit of trouble for a not very capable horse skirmisher like these ones. These particular horse skirmishers are awful in melee, and so the Peltist is actually a pretty solid pick at holding them back. We go take a look at Baktria's army. Up front are going to be some Bactrian Hillmen, and I was told these guys have a shield that has a better block chance in a comment, so that was cool to know. The Bactrian Hillmen are a little unique in that facet. There are Thorax swords in a second line. There's 4 of them. And then we're going to have, it looks like Bactrian Noble Horse. Now these are extraordinarily good heavy cavalry as well. I don't know exactly how they stack up against Noble Blood, but I'm guessing they're very close. If not, maybe better. I'll have to look here, though. Let's see. Noble Blood is 46, 25, 15, 34. Yeah, the weapon damage is quite a bit better on the Bactrian Noble Horse, and their charge is stronger, too. Melee defense is stronger. Armor is 95 versus 70. Yeah, so the Bactrian Noble Horse is the better unit here in terms of stats. I'm not exactly sure they compare on cost, but I'm guessing stat-wise, the Bactrian Nobles are certainly the better unit, and there's 4 of them here that I'm seeing. We've got a Bactrian Royal Guard General. That's a heavy hoplite. They are supported by a horse archer behind them, a Bactrian horse archer, and then there are 4 Persian light archers. I almost said Bactrian light archers, but they are Persian light archers. So interesting in the skirmish contingent here. Like, both players have a very healthy skirmish contingent. Bactria's is a little more mobile. Colchis is not. But these 4 Peltists represent a significant threat, and if I'm Baktria, I would really like to bait the javelins out of these Peltists, because I do not want those javelins hitting my cavalry or other units late in the game. So that's exactly what's happening here, is a baiting operation. Now this takes a lot of focus to do it right, because you can make one mistake and it'll be over, but I think this is the right move. Like, just bait these Peltists, get rid of their javelins, and make them just kind of half-decent support units later on and not overly effective, right? So Peltists are not good in a melee, but they're not awful, and, you know, they have enough armor to where, again, they can be decent late in the game. So I like this move. Bait those javelins out, waste them, and make those Peltists less effective. Otherwise, I mean, Persian light archers against the slingers, it's going to just depend on kind of who gets the right shots, who's targeting what. The light archers are going to deal more damage faster. The slingers will have more ammunition and a shield, which protects them a little longer, so it's kind of the classic trade-off between archers and slingers. I don't exactly know how well these units match up just in a face-off of skirmishing. I'd have to go back and test that. I do know that archers tend to be good at lobbing missiles into a cavalry fight and causing a lot of damage quickly. The slingers are better at chewing away at armor. And so again, it's kind of a trade-off between the two. I don't know, some people might have feelings that one is definitely better than the other, but to me they feel like different tools for different opportunities. These Peltist here being chased off by a Bactrian Hillman. And you can see the Hillman definitely getting some kills on him. There's Cartly Axemen headed that direction, but Baktria is making a push this direction as well. That noble horse is going to be confronted by a Bactrian noble horse. Gets partway intercepted. The rest of it is going to land as charge into the thorax swords. Those Peltists get routed, and this Bactrian Hillman is going to become an effective unit here at screening those Peltists away from the cavalry, but there are more Peltists in the background. Let's see, the target of the Persian light archers here is likely the cavalry. It's funny, I actually mentioned this a moment ago, and you're seeing that be the case here. The archers are really good at lobbing some very painful fire into that cavalry fight. You can see Baktria kind of just falling away with their right flank and trying to delay while they gain a victory here on their left flank, but that puts them at risk of being overloaded. But we're going to need to see Colchis push quickly if they want to achieve that overload. Already there's a Bactrian noble horse crashing into these Peltists, which is kind of a near last line of defense for these Eastern Slingers, which means that Hephaestus Lancer is going to need to activate. But I would say Colchis is in big trouble based on what I'm seeing here on this left flank. It's going to really depend on what they can accomplish on the other flank. And here comes the Hillmen and Axemen getting into combat. Those Hephaestus Lancers are going to activate as I expected. The problem is that now they are faced with some pretty overwhelming odds over here. Even if they deliver a devastating charge to this noble horse, which they kind of can, that is going to be a very tough fight for them. And then there's horse skirmishers supporting it. So that is not ideal for Colchis. So, like I said, even if they deliver a painful charge, which they did, but again, the armor and survivability of those noble horses really making itself apparent there, which means that, look at this, yeah, see the Hephaestus Lancers are trying to retreat. They're going to be pursued. They're in really bad shape now, and the archers are there. These Hephaestus Lancers, there's another unit, but they're going to have a really hard time stopping the Bactrian noble cavalry without the help of that noble blood cav that was there earlier. So at this point, that fight, drawing in those noble blood cav early, has really favored Baktria, and they are making out well over it here. These Axemen facing off against thorax swords. The Axemen are not performing well at the moment. See here that, again, not a great performance. So Colchis is getting wrapped up pretty hard at the moment, and that's not an insult to the Colchian player. It's just these things can happen in battle. It happened to me when I was playing the sub-commanders not too long ago. I make one mistake and suddenly you find yourself just reeling, and that's the way things work in Total War games. Is you can make one mistake and find yourself just getting absolutely wrapped up from it, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you're like an awful player or something like that. So when I say this, again, don't take it as an insult to the players. It's likely that, I mean, almost all of the players, if not all of them that we're seeing these replays, are probably more skilled than me. So I'm just commentating. It's always easier to commentate. So in any case, yeah, Colchis does look like it's falling apart fast. They're about to get absolutely pummeled by Persian light archers, and there's still a lot of units here. But this is an interesting matchup between Baktria and Colchis. Colchis has very little unit variety. They're very unidimensional in the sense that they rely on axes as a main line. They're going to have to, bring some skirmishers to help support that. They do have some heavy cavalry. It's like, I guess the best way to say it is Colchis has terrible unit variety. They don't have terrible units. They have terrible unit variety. And so it does make it fairly straightforward in terms of like how you can try and counter Colchis. Man, look at the damage those archers do to the horses. Ouch. I wonder if there's a hidden bonus versus large on arrows. If anybody knows the answer to that, let me know. There may not be, but I've just noticed that archers are very effective at lobbing damage into a cavalry fight. And it may just be the nature of how they fire, but GG. Baktria going to take home a clean victory here versus Colchis. And again, that's not meant as an insult versus the Colchian player. I would imagine that if I was taking Colchis into battle like this, that I would probably get the floor mopped with me much harder than what happened here. But Leviathan, thank you for playing here. Again, don't take any insult from what I'm saying, because none is intended. And Sol Invictus here playing a very strong Bactrian game. The Bactrian Noble Horse are tough to counter. They are good units. And despite the presence of this Noble Blood Cavalry, which is also good, you saw the stats there, 20 more armor, better attack, more damage on the spear. Okay, yeah, so the Bactrian Noble Horse are very dangerous. The Hephaestus Lancers would have needed to be right there supporting it, but there were still 4 of the Bactrian Noble Horse to only 3 of the Noble Bloods and 2 Hephaestus. Those Peltists would have needed to have been right there with the cavalry in the fight, and they were not able to do that. That was the only way they're going to get away with it. So Baktria basically throwing these cab numbers around and causing problems. You can see their infantry line is none too amazing. Really, probably the infantry line for Colchis was almost as good. But at the same time, like, it just, when you start falling behind that cavalry fight, it can come up quick. I do like the idea of Peltist. They are nice support units. They can chuck javelins and get effective damage done against many units. They're just not solid enough to like really hold a flank. They were dissuading those horse skirmishers, but when it comes down to it and you get a heavier unit moving in, you need something to body block while the Peltist throw their damage in. But they are certainly capable of shredding a unit like Baktria and Noble Horse, and they would be one of your better options if you can get it available in terms of getting those javelins. And javelins do have a bonus versus large, as far as I remember. And so that's why they are so effective against horses and elephants. Anyway, great game to both players. Thanks to Soul, thanks to Leviathan. And I will see you all soon with some more action in Total War Rome 2.